Welcome to the Empowerment Hour, a podcast dedicated to the woman ready to take charge of her life, live in her purpose, and be unapologetically authentic. I am your host, Nancy Ruffin, award-winning author, mommypreneur, and the self-proclaimed Latina Oprah who is dedicated to helping women unleash their power, discover their purpose, and live up to their fullest potential. My goal is to empower you, inspire you, and help you unlock your passions and discover your purpose so that you live the most fulfilled and impassioned life. If you're ready to make a change and start living on purpose, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Empowerment Hour podcast. It's your girl, Nancy Ruffin, and I'm super excited for tonight's show. A lot has been going on. I mean, if you've been under a rock, that's the only way you don't know what's been happening in the media lately. And I don't normally like to talk about current events because it's really not the tone of this podcast. But I think that it's really important to mention what's going down in Charlottesville, Virginia. We're really starting to see all of these white supremacists really come out now and be open about their feelings, and they're really voicing, I guess, their displeasure with people of color basically fighting for and wanting basic equality, civil rights. And this is something that we've been, dealing with for hundreds of years in this country. And my heart and prayers go out to the young lady who was killed as a result of this neo-Nazi rally happening down there in Virginia. So I just wanted to kind of open the show with that, give a moment of silence for Heather and for her family and for all of the injured. I think there were about 19 the last time that I read who were injured when this young man, and I can't recall his name, but from what I read, he was 20 years old. He basically took his vehicle and just plowed these protesters and these people, down there fighting for, or rather trying to counter what the white supremacists are down there doing. But enough of that. I hope your week has been amazing. I hope that you've been focused on your goals. I hope that even when you've encountered some setbacks, that you have not allowed the setback to stop you. And that's actually what I want to talk about in tonight's episode. I want to talk about 1, overcoming fear, 2, managing failure, and developing a successful mindset. All of these 3 things interlock with one another. And if you don't know how to control these things, how to manage them, and how to create this mindset where success is inevitable, then we're never going to get to a place where we're accomplishing our goals and our dreams, right? And so the first thing I want to talk about is fear. And if you're anything like me, fear is one of those things that lays its tentacles into you, and if you allow it, will paralyze you. It will keep you stuck, and it will prevent you from taking the first step towards anything that you want to accomplish. And the thing with fear is that it's really in our mind, right? It's the not knowing that scares us, because I think that we talk ourselves out of the things that we want to do. We make up scenarios, we create these what ifs, and it's always 9 times out of 10, it's like what if, but in the negative way. It's not what if, and something positive happens. Because if we learned to retrain that voice in our head that says, well, what if I succeed? And what if this is possible? Then that fear would not really be a problem. But the thing is, we don't tend to talk to ourselves in that way. We tend to be negative. And so whenever we're questioning and whenever we're doing those what ifs, it's always in a negative connotation. And all of that is really based on fear. And the way we handle fear has a lot to do, I think, with how we view ourselves, how confident we are in our abilities to really accomplish the things that we say we're going to accomplish. And I think that it's absolutely normal. Not saying that if we allow fear to overwhelm us, we're not confident or we don't have high self esteem. But there's something that's happening within us, within our psyche, and within our minds that is triggering that kind of response. And so, what I like to do is really kind of do some internal reflective work and see where that fear is stemming from. And most times it comes from something that we've experienced in our past, or in our childhood, because that is how we set our expectations, right? From those things that we've experienced. And so if history tells us whenever we in the past we've tried to go for something and we've been unsuccessful, then subconsciously we've already conditioned ourselves to believe that no matter what we do, we're going to fail. And so our fear stems from that place. So how do we overcome that, right? And how do we step out of that fear-based mentality into something that says, you know what, I may not know what the outcome is, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going to go for it anyway. I'm not going to allow what my body is telling me, what my mind is telling me in the sense of fear to stop me. And one of the things, I guess the best way I can explain this has to do with, I guess my husband and I, when we started house shopping, and things were not, like, it was not a smooth house buying process for us. I mean, first of all, we were searching and searching for months for houses, and it seemed like everything that we saw was not worth what they were asking. And if we found something that we absolutely loved, it wasn't within our budget. Then when we did find something that we loved and it was within our budget, the owners decided to take it off the market. I don't know, they were going through a divorce and they couldn't come to terms. They couldn't come to any agreement on the terms of the divorce and who was going to get what. And so, I don't know. They ended up taking the house off the market. But what ended up happening was when we finally found our house, for us, it was absolutely perfect. It was everything that we wanted. It was within our budget. It was a home that didn't require, tons of work. We were able to kind of move in and then fix the things that we wanted to fix little by little. It wasn't like unlivable. But once we started the process, applying for the mortgage and trying to get, the loan from the bank, so many things, there were so many obstacles that presented themselves. And I found myself almost doubting whether or not this was going to happen for us. And I remember, I have ridiculous amount of student loan debt. And when we were talking with the mortgage broker, he was saying that because my debt was so high, that we probably wouldn't get approved for the mortgage loan. And I remember feeling so defeated. I remember feeling like such a failure. And I started to question whether or not the fact that I went to college and that I got my degree, if it was even worth it, because now my dream of becoming a homeowner was being jeopardized. So long story short, we ended up getting approved for our mortgage. We ended up buying our house, but the I guess the mortgage broker, I remember him telling us that we would not make it past the first few months because there was no way we would be able to afford the mortgage along with all of the other expenses that we had. And I have to tell you that as a first time homeowner, I think I was 30 when we purchased our house, and I didn't have any kids or anything at the time. But it was really scary to have someone who didn't know me, who didn't know my husband, who did not understand um, our financial situation. And although, I mean, he had access to all of our debts and all of our expenses, but he had no faith that we can do it. And so that was really scary because it kind of put doubt in my own mind as to, right, wow, will we really be able to afford this? It was a significant increase in what our monthly expenses had been. So I think where we were paying at the time, and I think our rent was like $750. We were going from $750 to some, I think between the mortgage and our like house insurance and taxes and everything else that goes into owning a house, it was from like $750 to $2,800 or something like that. So yeah, that was absolutely scary. And so I think where I could have subscribed to that and believed what this man was saying, it could have stopped us, both of us, if we decided, you know what, screw this. We're just going to dig ourselves into a hole. We can't afford this. But whatever. We ended up doing it, and we've never missed a mortgage payment. We've never not been able to do things. We still live a fabulous life. And yes, of course, we've been here now almost 10 years. And so, our income has increased significantly, and we're older, so we manage our money better. But all of these things, I'm sharing them just to say that sometimes our fears are based on what other people have imposed on us. So it may not necessarily be that we're afraid, but we've allowed someone else to get in our ear that has caused us now to doubt ourselves and to really allow us to believe that what we are capable of is not possible. So I think that the first thing in overcoming fear is really identifying the source of that fear. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a past experience that you have had, or is it coming from someone else who is imposing their own fears onto you? And once you're able to analyze that and differentiate it and really dig into where that fear is stemming from, that is the first step to helping you overcome that fear. And not so long ago, I watched this video on Facebook. It was Will Smith, and he was talking about fear. And he was talking about when going skydiving. And I don't know if this story would pertain to him, but it was just a story. You're out with your friends, you get drunk, and you're all hyped up. And so they're saying, yeah, the next day we're going to go skydiving. And then you're like, yeah, I'm down. I'm going to go for it, because you're drunk and you're not really thinking about the actual act of skydiving and all the fear that comes with that, and the fact that you're going to be jumping out of a plane, thousands of miles up in the air. These are not things that you're thinking about. So you agree, yes, let's do it. Then the next day comes and you wake up and you realize, oh shit, I said I was going to go skydiving today. And now you start thinking about all of the things that could possibly go wrong, right? You think about being thousands of feet up in the air. You think about your parachute possibly not opening. You think about what that adrenaline is going to feel like as soon as you step out or you jump out of the plane, and so you're thinking about all of these things. And in essence, you're scaring yourself, right? You don't even know what the experience is going to be like yet. You're just imagining in your mind what it will be like. And so then you're on the plane and you get to the point where you're ready to throw yourself out, and you can either hold on or you can let go, and someone pushes you out, right? And so the moment between you actually stepping out and flying, once you do that, the fear disappears, right? Because you're in it already. And the experience is unlike what you've imagined it to be. And then in hindsight, it's like, well, why was I so afraid to begin with? And the answer to that is because you just don't know, right? And so a lot of times we let that fear of the unknown stop us. And it's the absolute worst thing that we can do for ourselves, because it's like they say, what you want is on the other side of fear. And it's so true. As soon as you let go of those limiting beliefs, as soon as you decide that you're not going to let fear become a factor in how you live your life, in the experiences that you have and what you do, you almost become unstoppable. And so I know that for me, I've developed a fearless mentality. And it's that fearless mentality that also contributes to me not being afraid of failing. So I'm willing to take any kinds of risk because I'm not afraid to fail. Because for me, failure isn't final, right? For me, failure is just another lesson, right? It's teaching me what not to do the next time. And so if I fail this time, I'm not going to use everything that I did this time where I failed the next time. Now I'm going to go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, this didn't work. Why didn't this work? And what can I possibly do better in the future so that I can have a successful outcome? And I find that most people don't act because they're afraid, and most are afraid of failing. So fear and the fear of failing are two of the most powerful things that keep us from going after what we want. The minute you develop that fearless attitude, the minute you understand that failure isn't final, you become unstoppable. You become this thing. You become so determined because you know that eventually you are going to get the outcome that you wish for, right? If you think about every successful person, successful, famous people, no one that has ever achieved any modicum of success has done so without failure. No one. Every successful person has failed, right? But they've succeeded because they did not allow that failure to stop them. They used the failure as a stepping stone for success. And so when you understand that fear is something we tell ourselves to keep ourselves stuck and to keep ourselves from moving, when we tell ourselves, or when we learn to understand that failure isn't final, that failure is the stepping stone, that failure is teaching us something, then we can become fearless. because then there's nothing that can stop us from going after what we want. And that is really what developing a successful mindset is understanding that no matter what happens, no matter what obstacles come our way, no matter what mortgage brokers tell us that we're going to be broke and we're not going to be able to make our mortgage payments, that we're able to quiet all of that noise and know that no matter what, we are going to succeed. Even if you fail 100 times, even if you fall, even if you get a bloody eye, I mean, whatever, right? No matter what you encounter, if you understand that all of that is a part of your success journey, then you will be successful. I like to think about this one time when I was in college, and I was really, I was I guess I still am stubborn. And I was hot headed and I thought that I knew it all. And me and my dad at this time weren't getting along. He was super, super strict. And I was a young girl in my 20s and I wanted to do what, young girls do. I wanted to be out, I wanted to have fun. And it kind of clashed with what he thought I should be doing. And so he was paying for my school at this time. And he decided, as most parents do, they give you the ultimatum. If you're going to live in my house, you have to go and, follow my rules. And I didn't want to follow his rules. So I got up and left, and I briefly went to go live with my grandmother. But in doing that, I lost a lot of the privileges that came with being home, right? And that had to do with the financial assistance that he was providing me. I mean, I didn't have a job. He was taking care of me. He was paying for my college. And when I moved out, all of that stopped. And so here I am having to plan for next semester and registering for classes and having to put a deposit down, right? That's the only way you can enroll. You have to put deposit down on your classes. And I didn't have him to pay. And so I was ready to withdraw from this class. And I think that this really was the first lesson I got in kind of believing in myself and having faith and trusting that the universe will work in my favor and that everything will work out. And so one of my professors, I remember I was going to withdraw from his class because I don't think I had the money to pay for the remaining balance, on my classes. And if I didn't, they were going to withdraw me from the classes. The school would have done it, and then I just would have gotten. I don't remember what the grades were, but it was gonna negatively impact my GPA. And so before that happened, I figured, all right, if I just withdraw, you just get like a W, and it doesn't reflect in your GPA. So when I went to this professor, they have to sign your withdrawal slip, and he refused. And he asked me why was I withdrawing, because I was an excellent student. I think I was averaging an A in his class. And so he wanted to know why, for a student who's doing so well, why would I be withdrawing? So I explained to him the situation. And he was like, well, I'm not going to sign your withdrawal slip. If this has to do with money, then let the school kick you out. I'm not going to make this easy, and you shouldn't either. You should stick and you should fight for it if this is where you want to be. And I think that was probably one of the most significant lessons that I've ever learned ever in life, that if you really want something, if you believe that and you know that you're great at it, you stick with it. No matter what anyone says, you wait until they come and they kick you out. And then even then you go out kicking and screaming. Don't go out without a fight. And the irony about this story and about that class is that was a public speaking class. And considering the direction that my life has taken, that class was actually one of the most important courses I've ever taken in my life. It really set me up for the work that I do as a public speaker, with the workshops that I give, with this podcast. A lot of the work that I do requires for me to talk. And so the fact that that class had such a significant impact on the direction that my life took just further confirms for me that the universe is always acting on our behalf, even when we don't know it. Okay, this was years ago. This was almost 20 years ago. 20 years ago, I never would have imagined that I would be doing any of the stuff that I'm doing today. Never, ever, ever. I was taking that class, and I didn't even realize then the significance of it, because I was an accounting major. I was a business major. And so public speaking is not something that you really do as an accountant. I mean, and look, and all these years later, I have an accounting degree that I have never used ever. I have never worked in that capacity. So it's just strange how the universe is always working in our favor and we don't even realize it. So tonight, I want you to really think about your own life. I want you to think about how you deal with fear, how you deal with failure, and whether or not you've established a fearless attitude and a successful mindset. And if you haven't, then think about what you can do to do so. Right? What is it that stops you? What is it really that you're afraid of? Are you afraid of failing? Are you afraid of succeeding? Because the fear of success is real too, guys. Because what happens is when we succeed, then there's an expectation for us to always succeed. Right? And because then when we fail, we're not only letting ourselves down, but then we're letting down others. So the success of failure is something that a lot of people struggle with. I mean, we see it every day. We see it with celebrities. We see it with musicians, right? Today they have a hot album, number one, and then the next day they're like a one-hit wonder. And for some people, that's hard to deal with, and it's scary. So understanding where your fear stems from is important. Understanding how you think about failure and what you do with the failure, how you respond to it, how you react to that. Think about that. Are you someone who is really hard on yourself when you fail? If you are, ask yourself why. Why are you so hard on yourself? Why don't you allow yourself the opportunity to fail? Understanding that you don't know it all. No one knows it all. And sometimes in order to figure out the right way to do something, we have to fail. Okay, so think about your relationship with fear. Think about your relationship with failure. And then think about how you can leverage the two to really get into a mind frame where all you're thinking about is success. So that even when you're scared, even when you're failing, all you can think about is how you're going to succeed. So that's sums it up for tonight, guys. I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any questions, you know where to reach me. Connect with me on Instagram, on Facebook. Visit my website, www.nancyarroyoruffin.com. Also, I'm having my Vision Board Bootcamp September 16th at Mott Haven Bar and Grill. So if you set goals for yourself in January that you wanted to accomplish by the end of this year and you have not, this is the workshop for you. We are going to really get into overdrive with manifesting those goals. We're going to create a 90-day plan for you. And we're going to we're really going to look at what has prevented you from completing those goals, right? Because identifying the things that hold us back is critical to getting us to move forward. So until next time, my loves, be safe, be kind, love each other, and go out there and crush some goals.